Well, hey, boys and girls, welcome back. Hope you had a great weekend. Well, what we're going to do today is practice. We're going to practice rounding numbers to nearest 10, 100, and thousands, okay? So I created this worksheet here that's got a front side and a back side. The back side is just this right here, but we're going to do rounding to the nearest 10, rounding to the nearest 100, and finally rounding to the nearest 1,000, okay? Now, some of you might get this right away. Others of us need a little bit more practice, okay, including myself. A little rusty after all the time we had off. So we're going to take today and practice. So you're going to need your whiteboard. You're going to need some dry erase markers. And you're going to need a good attitude. The attitude of I'm going to try and I'm going to keep working as hard as I can. I'm going to give my maximum effort in every situation, okay? And this is where we're going to start here, okay? So we're just doing rounding today, and you work along with your teachers. Teachers, feel free to pause this video at any time, interject with any advice that you have, and we're going to go from there, okay? So I'm going to skip around a little bit today. So teachers, be on the lookout when I'm skipping around, pause, make sure everybody's on the right spot, and we can go from there, okay? Because there's no way I'm going to be able to get through all of these in the time that we have. So, starting off rounding to the nearest 10. All right, so on here you should have your name on top, of course. Of course, I pick a marker that doesn't work, but so be it. So you put your name on top, that'd be great. You always want to use your first and last name. And the number. Okay, and your date. Don't worry about the score or the teacher. The date is 10/5/20. Okay, so today we're round each number to the nearest 10. Now, when I think of 10, kids, what you really need to think of is the midway point of 10, all right? If I look at my whiteboard here, I'm going to think to myself the midway point. The midway point between any 10, so if I use my vertical number line, and I've got top and bottom. If I'm looking at the midway point between 0 and 10, it's always 5, okay? That magical number 5, okay, is the midway point no matter what, in any 10 I use. So if it's 0 to 10, the halfway point is 5, okay? If it's another two 10s, let's say 60 and 70, okay, that midway point ends with a 5. And what is it? Halfway between 60 and 70 is going to be 65, okay? Super important that we remember that 5, okay? Even if I'm in the hundreds, here's another line here, okay? So top point, if I'm in the hundreds, say I've got 220 and 230, I can look at this as 22 tens or 23 tens. The halfway point is going to end in a 5 because we're talking about tens. Always ends in a 5. Nearest 10, midway point always ends in a 5. This would be 225, midway point, okay? Super important that we remember that. I'm talking about tens, midway point is 5 at the end, okay? Always, 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 okay? So, let's do a few of these. We've got here, I'm going to do 1 and 6. All right, so I look at 92. 92, I automatically want to say, all right, 92 lands between 90 and 100. So my vertical number line is going to look like this. 90 and 100. 92 lands between those two tens. I can count by tens and land on 100. So the halfway point ends in a 5. I'm talking about nearest tens. So halfway between 90 and 100 would be 95. 92 is less than 95. It lands right about there. So I'd round this to 90. So I would know right away that my answer here is 90. Okay? Even before I did the number line, my eyes went directly to this 2 right here. And I asked myself, is that lower than 5? And I had my answer already in my head. You'll get used to that way as well. If I skip over here to 6, and you can do the rest with your teacher, but over here to 6, This is also still rounding to the nearest 10. And I want to show you what that looks like on a vertical number line. On a vertical number line, I'm going to write down, well, 566. If I'm having issues here, I'm going to my top and bottom 10. I'm looking at this 6. I know that that's higher than 5, so I'm going to round up no matter what. But I have 566. Well, if I look at this here, my 10 is 560. All right, all I have to do is change this last number to a 0, and my bottom 10 is 560. Another 10 up would be 570. See how I just added a 10 to that? My midway point must end in a 5, so it's 565. If you gave your brain a chance to think on Friday, I bet you're starting to get this a little bit better. So 566 is just one tick above 565. So this would round up to 570, okay? 570. And I can see that 66. If I'm just looking at 66, that would round to 70. But it's not just 66, it's 566, so it's 570. All right, now I'm gonna jump over here to the nearest 100. Nearest 100 is a little bit different here. Nearest 100, if I look at hundreds, my midway point between 0 and 100 is 50. Okay, so if I'm midway point between any 100 is always gonna end in 50. It always will. Okay, even if, let me just erase these, 200 and 300. My midway point in the nearest 100 is 50. Well, it's not just 50, it's between 200 and 300, so this is 250, okay? And that works with any number. Think about it, nearest 100 is always, the midway point is always gonna be 50. Really have to remember that, okay? So, if I look at this one here, okay, again, teachers, pause if you need to. Nearest 100, I'm looking at 118. I know my answer right away, I do. I look at that 18, and I'm thinking nearest 100, well, midway point is a 50. Right, midway point's a 50. So I know 18 is lower than 50, so I know this is gonna round down to 100. Well, if I look over here in my number line, if I draw this out on my whiteboard, which I encourage you to do, 118, bottom number is gonna be 100, right? So it's 100. Top is gonna be 200. Midway point has to end in 50, so it's gonna be 150, okay? I know 118 is much below 150. So this is rounds down to 100 right here. So I'd write down 100, okay? Now if I skip over here to 6, 6 is 5,119. I'm looking right here, nearest 100, I'm thinking 50 is the midway point. That's 19. 19 is way below 50, okay? So I know this is coming down. So if I look here to number line, okay, gonna go up, down, top point, low point, 5,119. All right, these last two need to end in zeros. That's gonna be my bottom 100, so 5100. So it's 5,100, or I could say 5,100. My top, my next 100 up is just one more 100, so it's 5,200. My midway point must end in 50. Remember we talked about that. Halfway between 0 and 100 is 50. So I've got this. 5,150. So 5,150. And then my number was 5,119. So guess what? 19 is lower than 50. It's down here somewhere. 5,100 or 5,100. Just like that, okay? Okay. So, I'm gonna have another video and I'm gonna talk about the thousands place, rounding to the thousands, all right? So hang tight, I'll have a thousands place video coming right up.